Welcome in, everybody, to another great episode of the TBT podcast. To be going over the Cincinnati Bengals and Kansas City. As with me, as always, Zach. Zach, what's happening? What is your first initial thoughts about the Cincinnati Bengals Kansas City Chiefs game?
That result is not at all surprising. Okay, like if you would have asked me, which we didn't do I wasn't on the preview show, so I didn't get to give my thoughts, but if I were to guess how this game went, it would have been exactly like that. Even though the Bengals looked like trash last week, because a game between us has never been decided by by more than 3 points, and Lou Anarumo just has our number, and so does honestly their offense, and so that was exactly how I expected it to go.
Yeah, and that's a part of it. Now, obviously, the Chiefs didn't play great with the turnovers, but outside of just the turnovers, Cincinnati Bengals, whatever it is, they play the Chiefs well. They do. They just play the Chiefs well. They rush three. They drop everyone back in coverage, and they just know how to play Patrick Mahomes. Like you said, Lou Anarumo, he does a good job versus the Chiefs. He really does. My first initial thoughts is, again, like you said, it's like I kind of was going in. I'm like, I feel like the Chiefs can put up on the Bengals because they're kind of down right now. And then right before kickoff, I'm like, this is going to be a classic Chiefs versus Bengals game. Like they always are going to play close. It's always going to be a close game. What are some of your first takeaways on what Kansas City really did during the game and what really has to be taken away? Like what we got to stop and tighten up if it's offensively or defensively.
Yeah, it's less about scheme and less about performance, honestly, more just about we have glaring holes in our team. Obviously, left tackle was a disaster yesterday. Okay. And I proposed this solution. Okay. I want us to sign either Donovan Smith or David Bakhtiari, okay, off the street, and let them play left tackle this year. We're going for a three-peat. We have no time to mess around, okay? Yeah. We have no time to allow Mahomes, because you remember early 2021, Mahomes did not trust Orlando Brown because he was getting beat off the edge every down. And how did Mahomes play? He had his worst season up to that point because he didn't trust. When Mahomes does not trust his left tackle, he plays badly. He forces things. He stands like a statue in the pocket expecting to get sacked. And we cannot afford this year to let that happen. And Kingsley, I'm sure he's an athletic guy. He's only a rookie. I'm sure he'll be serviceable in the future. But at this point, if we were to hire Bakhtiari and then let our two backups, Wanye and Suamatea, learn from a 4 or 5-time All-Pro, that is the perfect scenario to fill up that hole. And that's the biggest takeaway from the game, honestly. I knew we were going to be rough on both sides of the ball because we're playing Cincinnati. But that right there was the reason why we weren't going to win until that pass interference call.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty brutal, to be honest with you, watching, again, just Kingsley just every play just get destroyed by Hendrickson. I mean, like you said, that may be the biggest takeaway in the game was left tackle. Just play after play was getting destroyed. Play after play was getting destroyed. I mean, Mahomes, the times he did have a clean pocket, we were able to get guys open. Look what happened with Rice when he had a clean pocket. Down the sideline, was able to find a guy. And then that's the problem. They weren't blitzing. They weren't blitzing that much. They were like, Hendrickson, just go tear up this rookie. That's pretty much what happened. If you're able to blitz three, or if you're able to pass rush with only 3 guys, effective like that, it's going to be a long day. Like it really is. It's going to be a long day, and that's what it really was for the Chiefs. And I like it. I think they do need to go get a veteran, because right now, I mean, some of the teams you're going to face in the playoffs, they're going to have a pass rush like that. When you go face the 49ers and some of these other teams, they're going to have a good pass rush. And God, Hendrickson, as good as he is, there's some other guys that are going to be even better than that. And it does make me a little bit nervous that Patrick Mahomes' blind side is looking a little weak right now.
Definitely. And like I said earlier, Kingsley can be a great player. He
Yeah.
might be great by the very end of the year, but right now he's being taken advantage of. And it is the one thing that is separating us from winning games comfortably like we should,
Mm-hmm.
and our offense looking kind of dysfunctional at times. And Mahomes looking like the worst he's ever played. I mean, Mahomes got really hot at the end of the 2021 season because the O-line started to gel. Because I remember it was 5 new O-linemen that year, or 4, and then Wiley. So once the O-line started to gel, he really, started to play better. But that was Mahomes in that year was worse than last year. He was
Mm-hmm.
weird. It was hard to watch sometimes, and so I'm just hoping that we address that because I think Veach and everyone saw the same thing as we did.
Yeah, that was a big thing for me was the offensive line. Another thing I did not like was the tackling. I feel like the tackling was really bad. They would have a guy wrapped up, and then it was almost like the guy just poured butter on himself, and then we just would let go. And I feel like there was a
Yeah,
lot of plays where it was like, okay, all right, we're going to get the stop. They're not going to be able to check down here and have 3rd and 2, and should be 2nd and 8, 2nd and 7, and the guy squirms out and gets 5 to 6 more yards, and now they're able to have the third and manageable. Because that's the biggest thing with the Bengals is what we saw all day was they had one big play to Burton. Other than that, what do? They like to check it down. They like to get out of his hands quick. He likes to check it down. And that was the biggest thing I saw was the tackling was not great.
Tranquil has not been great so far.
No,
not at all. He's been
the only linebacker
I mean,
really
him
think
and
is
exactly Chanel.
Yeah.
Chanel has been a beast.
Yeah,
absolutely insane. But yeah, Tranquil and Bolton played better this game than he did last game, because they didn't take as much advantage of him than the Ravens. The Ravens were absolutely taking advantage of him and playing him at his weaknesses. But Tranquil, I haven't really seen him other than that tackle for loss he got, but he also missed a tackle on that play and then got it back. So I'm hoping to see once the season goes on, because I feel like that type of grinding position linebacker is one that they get better as the season goes. As everyone gets beat up, they get better because they play the most physical position.
Yeah, and one thing again, the Kansas City Chiefs, not that they always start out bad record-wise, but we never see them like out. I mean, last year, the year before, like even 2 years ago, they started out a little bit hot. After losing in the AFC Championship game, there was a little bit more of that passion in 22. But even last year, they didn't start out great, and they were able to kind of find pockets here and there where they were playing good. But I think it's going to take time. Like we have Kelsey who had 5 yards. 5 yards. I think he's going to start to find his groove. And again, there's time. Like when have we ever ran the ball this much? Kansas City Chiefs have never ran the ball this much. And obviously, the Bengals are a team that can't really stop a nosebleed during the run game, which I felt like in the second half we kind of got away. From.
I was about to say the same thing.
Yeah,
that was a winning strategy. And then there was one drive where we just threw like screen passes every single play, and we 3 and out.
Yeah, I didn't like it. You're exactly right. I didn't like that in the second half. We were averaging almost a first down a carry. I felt like Jamal Charles was out there with Pacheco, the way we were just running it. Steele even ran it pretty well, even though he had that fumble. But all of a sudden in the second half, we're like, all right, we just need a pass. It's like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Because look what the Bengals were doing. They were trying to own the time of possession. They were slowing things down. Doesn't matter if we're kicking field goals every time. If you guys are punting and getting turnovers, that don't really matter. So I feel like in the second half, Andy Reid was like, well, this is boring. I don't want to just run the ball. We know Andy has a tendency, he just doesn't like running the ball. But I thought they should have just kept going to the run game, because the way Pacheco was playing before he got hurt, which obviously we'll get into, I felt like the run game was absolutely killing it for the Chiefs.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And Pacheco, prayers up, because when that happened, I was thinking knee injury. Even though it was his like lower leg that got bent up, it seemed like he like twisted at that knee joint. And so honestly, hearing that it's an ankle or a leg injury is probably better, because those sprained and torn ligaments obviously have a much longer recovery time.
Right.
But broken fibula, broken leg. Do you see him jogging off the field after that? That's how tough Pacheco is. Like everyone else, they'd be on the floor like, this dude.
Yep.
I thought he was about to come back in.
Yeah, I honestly did too. The timeline is 8 to 6 weeks. I think that's probably roughly where it's going to be. He'll probably miss like 2 months. Um, so, what do you think they should do at the running back position now? The Chiefs
Yes, yes,
did
yes.
held they did held a open tryout for Kareem Hunt, but where do you think they should go? Do they go get a free agent? Do they trade for somebody, or do you go with what you got?
I'm telling you, it's got to be Kareem. All the other dudes coming off, he might be a little washed. The other guys that are in contention are extremely washed. Like, extreme, like, there's no reason for them to step on the field again. It's like Randy Moss on the Niners. Like, let's just cut it out, okay? Let's bring Kareem Hunt back. He was my favorite player. And when I got to math class and my teacher told me about Kareem Hunt video, I was devastated. Freshman year, I was devastated. I was sad that it was such a terrible ending where we were never going to bring him back. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's get Kareem Hunt a ring because he's been watching all of our Super Bowls and
Oh
he's
yeah,
just been thinking to himself like, what did I do?
yeah. I mean, maybe it was a blessing in disguise because we've never had Pacheco. Kareem Hunt would have stayed, but
Well,
also,
I'm sorry, Kareem
what
Hunt's a
dream?
little better than Pacheco.
What?
I'm saying Kareem Hunt, in the same time span, a little better than Pacheco, definitely.
Oh, for sure. And that's what I'm saying. If imagine what Kareem Hunt could be right now, because he is the perfect back for like Patrick Mahomes. He would have been the perfect back for Patrick Mahomes. He can catch. He's a yak guy. Obviously, the way he runs, his style of running, is just absolutely perfect for the Kansas City Chiefs and the maulers they have in between the tackles. Um, so I want to see it. I want to see it too, because again, I like Steele and he's perfect now that we don't have to stress on like 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1
Yeah.
anymore. Compared to last year where we're like trying to scheme and like throw it behind our back and like
Yeah,
do a
Noah
flea
Gray
flicker.
sneak.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. So I like it now. We're like, okay, we're just gonna give it to the crocodile man, and then we're just gonna be able to pick up the first down. I know he had the fumble, but I still think it's such a relief now that we have like a fullback that's just gonna be able to just pick those yards up plus some. But like you said, I think Kareem Hunt out of all the other backs that are out there, I know people may say Murray, people may say Fournette, but I think the right choice would be Kareem Hunt. He's already been in this system, so to me, that's a no-brainer.
and he is
But if they
perfect when it
don't
comes
go
to
to Kareem
pass
Hunt,
catching.
yeah, and then like you
Like,
said, the
that's
absolute pass catching ability because this last game, that's where like you need that type of stuff. Where again, you're getting absolutely destroyed by Hendricks, so it's like you need those little just dump offs. And the way I think he's still able to run, and he's been a decent backup running back for the Browns. I want to see that. But no, the question I was going to ask you though is if they don't go to a free agent, they don't go to somebody outside, um, and they go to just Pirine and Steele, who do you want to see taking those reps? Is it Steele? Is it Pirine? Or is it even someone on the practice squad?
yeah, it's Steele and P. Well, first of all, that would be the worst backfield in the NFL. Okay, let's just make that clear. That's why we have to make because that would be one of the worst backfields I've ever seen in my life. And I'm a huge Steele guy. Okay, I'm a huge Steele guy. When I saw him in the preseason, I was like, this is the new Mike Allstott. Okay, so
Right.
I would prefer him get the carries and then obviously Samaje do the third down work. But he's a great runner. He's going to average 4+ yards a carry, despite the fact that he's also a great goal line guy that can get the 1 yard that you need. And so I'm really high on Carson Steele. I would want him to get most carries, but let's not put ourselves through that, please.
Right. Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see. I will be at the game in Atlanta, so hopefully I do get to see Kareem Hunt in person. Um, if they do end up signing him, but they got to kind of make a quick decision here in the next maybe couple days, just to get him acclimated back with the Chiefs if they do want to go to any free agency route. But it's going to be interesting these next couple weeks. I mean, is it just going to be an absolute just aerial show? Um, And I think this upcoming game versus the Falcons, I think you're going to really see a lot more guys that the Falcons are playing right now just kind of get in their groove, kind of get in their groove. We haven't really seen it yet. And like I said, these last two games, the Chiefs have been running the ball. They really have. Versus Baltimore, they were running the ball. Obviously, versus Cincinnati, because it was working very effectively, they were running the ball. But as we get kind of deeper into this game, what was some of the things you did like in this game from either the offense or the defense?
Yeah, I loved Trent McDuffie. I think most people
Yeah.
probably saw the next gen stat. He guarded Jamar Chase on about 50% of his routes. He allowed
Mhm.
one catch and 2 targets, or it might have been 2 targets and 2 catches and 4 targets, something
Mhm.
like that. He is proven that he can do the Snead thing with the number one receiver, and it's a blessing to have him on the team because this defense, they're not getting the pass rush that they have in recent years, honestly, because it's really just Jones. Okay, Karlaftis has not gotten much going. Dana's been kind of non-existent. The other guys on the interior aren't doing much, and we're missing Omenahu, obviously. And so the
Yeah.
fact that our defense is still playing well enough to win, despite an unusual lack of pass rush, is huge. And we're not blitzing as much. I feel like
Right.
we're playing very vanilla on both sides of the ball, and especially on defense. I mean, normally late in the game, Spags is sending everything, every play. He doesn't just, and it seems like he's really holding that back. I think we sent a lot of people maybe twice in the last couple drives, and normally it's like,
And it's effective.
it,
I want to say it was Jamari Conner who got the
yeah,
sack.
it's Mark Hunter.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, exactly.
He's huge. He was huge yesterday.
Mhm.
Obviously, kind of lucked into the fumble recovery, but outside of that, the tackling and obviously that sack, he was just a great player yesterday.
Right.
And then
Big
also,
too.
sorry, who'd you say?
I said big on special teams. When they
Oh,
it was a punt and they pinned him in within the 5 yard line.
oh yeah, definitely. He's one of the rising stars on the team. And as far as offense, Rashee Rice won deep. That's promising because he's the new slant boy, apparently. He's the new Michael Thomas. And so having
Yeah.
him get that occasional win to keep the defense a little more honest, because I mean, we know he has the acceleration to win deep. It's just his route tree has been very, very limited, like 3-4 routes. And so having that, and I guess he's won deep twice in his career, and they were both against Taylor Britt. So if that's anything. But Taylor
Yeah.
Britt he
Again, they
kind of did
both.
what he said he was going to do yesterday.
Who?
Taylor Britt.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he did get the interception.
yeah. And that was
On
clean.
worthy.
And he had
Well,
another
yeah,
interception. Right? The one that got called back was also him.
right.
Yeah.
So, speaking of the corners, though, what I mean, obviously outside of McDuffie, what's your thoughts on the secondary? Well, like I said, McDuffie, he claimed Chase so hard that again he got tackled and he was upset. So, what is your thoughts about the guys outside of McDuffie?
Yeah, okay, so it's interesting. Usually in the past, all of the people that we went against had multiple people to exploit a secondary. Okay, we would play the Chargers and they had both their guys, Allen and Mike Williams. We play the Bills with Stephon Diggs, and Gabe Davis would give whoever else we had work. This year is really just the Texans that have that super dynamic receiving core that where we need elite, like we would have needed Snead and McDuffie. And so even though our secondary might not be as talented, Watson's playing great. Okay. Williams looks a little lost on certain plays. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
He's regressed. And I saw yesterday they had Najee Johnson in, which I don't think he played much at all that first game. They had him in. And then Connor steps in with that slot role. And so for now, I'm completely fine with our corner group, even though it's kind of underwhelming because the big receiving teams lost guys and it's a lot more spread out evenly. So if McDuffie can take the number one, I feel good with Jalen Watson and Chamari taking the other two people.
Yeah. And the biggest thing I kind of realize is I think as Chiefs fans, sometimes we're spoiled. Like, we're like, we should be scoring 35 and we should look clean and all this. It's like, if I'm not mistaken, for the season, you turn on ESPN, Fox Sports, any one of them, any podcast, Barstool, who was the two other contenders outside the Chiefs? Bengals and Ravens. Kansas City Chiefs are 2-0, and we're both talking about how they're not playing well.
Yep.
So that
That's
gives
crazy.
me more confidence that we know, even that, especially the defense, we all know at the end part of the season, the defense is at an absolute peak. Even last year, I think, obviously, they kind of started out hot, but most years it was like the Chiefs always start out at the lower end of the defensive rankings, and all of a sudden, boom, at the end of the season, it's like, oh, this is one of the better D lines, or their secondary is playing absolutely out of their mind. So it almost gives me more confidence because I'm like, okay, obviously the Bengals are 0-2, the Ravens are 0-2. I don't think that's going to last, to be honest with you. But those are going to be the two other contenders. Obviously, I think the Texans will be up there too, which we're going to shot at them. But I'm confident. I'm so confident. I know, obviously, it hasn't worked. I think Kelsey's going to find his group. I think these guys are going to kind of find their groove. But I just feel like there's a lot of like rust with the offense and some of the guys. Obviously, Rice has been absolutely phenomenal. I think Worthy too has been good with some of the jet sweeps and stuff. But I still have that confidence level in them right now.
Yeah, and like you said, the offense does look rusty, and a lot of it probably has to do with we don't have the two dynamic field stretchers that we thought we would. Now we don't have Hollywood Brown, and Hollywood Brown at this point in time would be the second best receiver on the team because Worthy is not an all-around player yet. Okay.
Right.
And so missing Hollywood is really it's gonna suck. And then you have to think let's say we do make it into the playoffs, which will make the playoffs obviously. And Hollywood comes back. What is his role? Is he like a Miko Hardman on steroids because we played an entire season without him? Or does he actually come in and have the role that he was supposed to have? And that's going to be interesting to look at because it could be a great deal of surprise to other teams when we pull out Hollywood Brown and he's one of our main guys. They haven't seen that all year. They don't know what to do. At the same time, Mahomes and Hollywood, they need to get a connection because you know Mahomes is with his deep balls. He needs to know your stride. Like that's why he was so good with Tyreek. And then when MVS came, he was missing MVS all the time because he was so used to Tyreek. And so that's going to be interesting to watch once we get into December and January.
Yeah, and you got to remember, and what Chiefs fans got to remember too, outside of Rice, and obviously of Travis Kelce, those two guys, everything is still like newly structured. You're trying to get Worthy involved. You're trying to get guys involved that typically weren't involved. I mean, like I'll say it again, they're running the ball a lot more. And I think a lot of people have that concern too, like, oh, Kelsey did have the big catch, but obviously it was negated by a penalty. But they ran the ball a lot. Like there wasn't a whole lot of opportunities for Kelsey even to get the ball. I mean, we had the big catch for Rice. Outside of that, what big plays did they really have? Or guys were getting a lot of touches, receivers or tight ends? Not a lot. Not a lot. There was jet sweeps. Mahomes only had 155 yards. And I think they ran for 100-something yards rushing anyway. So what have we ever seen? 155-yard passing, and I think he threw under 30 times. And we see where it's balanced. Excuse me. When have we ever seen 100 yards rushing like that and almost 155 yards passing? Andy Reid is never that balanced. Ever. He's never that balanced. So I think that has to do with it too, if people are like really concerned, like, oh, our offense is gonna looks the same as last year and this, that, and the other. I think it's really gonna get going. I think the pass game is gonna get really going.
Yeah, I hope so. I really hope so. This unit is not much better than last year's now at this point without Hollywood, and it just isn't, you know. So we'll see. Rashee Rice obviously took a next step, but it's like we haven't even mentioned Kelsey since the beginning of the show. He doesn't seem like he's in the game plan, and I know it's only been 2 games, but he seems like Noah Gray out there. It's like, oh, if he gets the ball, it's cool. You know, we're getting stuff from Travis Kelce, cool, but it's not like it's weird. We haven't seen this since 2014 when he was a rookie or out with an injury.
Right.
And so hopefully
it is weird. I think it's what's really weird, and I don't know if it's for you too. It's just like because there's obviously games where like he'll only have like 25 yards, but it's always like a big play. And so you're like, oh, okay, like there was Kelsey. Like someone else may be going off, or there was times where it'd be like Tyreek Hill's day, and then it's like, oh, where the heck is Kelsey? And all it's like third and 12, and then it's like, oh, okay, there's the greatest tight end of all time. Like, he may have only had 30 yards and 2 receptions or whatever it may be, but it's like he had a big play where it was like, okay, there's Kelsey. We haven't even had that. I know he almost scored on that touchdown, but it's like 5 yards. When's the last time he
Yeah,
had 5 yards? He had
I
five
don't know.
yards the games he sat out, I feel like.
Yeah,
So it is weird. It is weird. I think he'll get going, but it's weird so far.
I think so too. It would help if Mahomes can have a little more time, because obviously the times that he finds Kelsey is when Kelsey's able to literally go whichever way he wants after the play's kind of broken down, because Mahomes is out there like frolicking and he's like, oh. So we need some of that instead of Mahomes panicking and throwing in dirt every play. But
right.
It's weird. And I hope there's lights of fire under him, because Kelsey, he's more about championships than stats, but he wants to be all pro 1. He wants to be all pro 2 at the very least. And so he's gonna get himself going. He's gonna tell Reed, like, hey, let me get some more action, because this would be a huge, disappointment if Kelsey is really falling off, which I don't think he has.
It would. And
we saw him 8 months ago. He was killing Kyle Hamilton, who would basically lock down everyone and win against all year. He was killing Fred Warner in fourth quarter of the Super Bowl. That was 7 months ago.
Probably his best playoff run. Like, probably just the best he's ever played in his career.
That first Super Bowl, he had like 5 or 6 touchdowns, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Right. But I mean, in that span, though, every game, how many? What do you have? 2 touchdowns versus the Bills? Like, that span where people are kind of like, oh, is Kelsey this, is Kelsey that? You're going to hear that. I mean, you're going to hear that. But like you said, Kelsey's the type of guy. And even after the game, obviously, when Butker made the field goal, they kind of had their fists. But you could tell just after the game, the way they talked, they were not happy. The Kansas City Chiefs were not, like, happy. Typically, when they beat the Bengals, they're like, they dance in the locker room. They're like, okay, this is our rival. Like, we're happy as hell. But you could kind of tell by the way that some of the guys were. It was like, we know we played sloppy as hell. That's why I have high expectations for this game coming up. And we also have to remember, the Bengals, as much as their defense is a lot weaker this year, they still have a good defense. And the Baltimore Ravens still have a good defense. They played 2 really good teams these first 2 games. And I think for a lot of Kansas City Chiefs fans, they're sitting there like, oh, my God, why aren't we doing it? It's like these teams are the 2 biggest contenders in the AFC probably. Again, they're 0-2.
Hey, don't sleep. Buffalo's better than Cincinnati every day of the week.
Really? You think so?
Yeah. Yes. I watched Josh Allen. I'm like, yes. And James Cook is way better now. I'm taking them as Houston's close, and I'm a big Jets guy, but Buffalo is the number 1 contender behind us, in my opinion.
Buffalo is 2-0. And we just saw the stats. Teams that are 2-0 have a 79% chance to make the playoffs. Teams that are 1-1, it goes down to 47%. Teams that are 0-2 have a 5% chance to make the playoffs. So unless the Bengals can do it again, because they've already done it, they're part of that 5%. So they have to do that 5% again this year. I do think they'll probably they got easier games coming up. But then later in the season, they got some tough games coming up. Baltimore Ravens, I think they're going to get it going. But right now they look solid.
But listen. Baltimore's next 3 games: Dallas, Buffalo, Cincinnati.
Tough.
Is
there's a possibility they start out 0-4 or 1-5, 1-6.
They could easily be 1-4 at the end. Now I think they'll beat. I don't know. Mike McDonald being gone might have really changed that defense where it's no longer what it was. Mm-hmm. That's a possibility. If that's true and they haven't figured out how to utilize Henry yet, they're going to be 1-4. Now, if they just prep for us, forgot about prepping for the Raiders, and lost a fluky game to the Raiders, they could be 3-2 because on paper they're better than all 3 of those teams.
Right. Yeah, and then like you said, those are some of the contenders. Obviously, we talked about Buffalo. I didn't think the Jets are going to get it going. I know the first game, San Francisco, even though, hey, San Francisco, they didn't look great versus the Minnesota Vikings. Is there any team so far through these first 2 games, because we all, like we just talked about, we got to remember, there's teams that are 0-2 right now, teams that are struggling right now. By the end of the season, we're going to be like, oh, yeah, that's right. They were struggling at the beginning of the season. But is
And
any team right now you're like, this team is surprising me?
I wouldn't say surprising. I expected them to start off slow, and they are starting off slow. But New York, the Jets. Okay, if you look at them on paper, they've consistently had a top 5 defense under Robert Saleh. They had the same guys. Now they lost their best pass rusher, and they replaced him with a dude that doesn't want to play for them. But other than that, they're the same guys. Aaron Rodgers is gonna get it going. He still can throw the ball very, very well. I watched every game yesterday, and I was really zoning in on that game because I want to see Rodgers. His connection with Lazard is great. He's going to get it going with Garrett Wilson, and Mike Williams is only going to get better. Okay, he already had a Moss yesterday. He's going to keep doing that. And Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, and an O-line that they invested heavily in this offseason. I don't really see a world where they don't have both a top 10 offense and defense by the end of the year. And if it were to happen, it would be not having a top 10 offense, but I think Rodgers still has it.
Yeah, and who do you like in that division? Obviously, Tua has some things he's got to work out. I mean, it's looking like he's saying he's going to come back. I know, obviously, a lot of people jump to he's going to retire, this and the other. But you have the Dolphins, even though they looked before the Tua injury, they looked terrible versus the Bills. They looked absolutely terrible. Josh Allen was cool in that night. He only had 130 yards passing. He was like, I'm just going to let Tua turn the ball over and give it to James Cook.
That division is difficult because I think Buffalo is the best team, but they had the first place schedule, and if you look at their schedule, it is brutal.
Tough.
It is
brutal. Very brutal.
It is basically the entire year they're only playing good teams, it seems like. So
yeah, essentially, some of the worst team they play is looking like Chargers and Patriots. Chargers are 2-0, and the Patriots are not as bad as what everyone thought it would be. So, yeah, I agree. I think right now the Bills, obviously they were able to get through these first 2 games, but the only slouch is what you have your division, and you're going to play the Patriots twice.
And you know that the Jets defense has Josh Allen's number. That could be 0-2 for New York. Like the way that Josh Allen throws like 3 picks a game against New York. And so I could see the Jets winning the division. I don't know if they're better than Buffalo, but Josh Allen is a superhuman. And they look a lot like our team 2 years ago, where they have good defense. It's probably going to be middle of the road. They lost a lot of talent, and Milano got hurt, obviously. And also now Terrell Bernard, the other linebacker, is out for a few weeks, I believe. But their receiving core is balanced. There's not one guy. There's a bunch of dudes that Allen is good enough to, elevate their play. And then they have James Cook, who's the perfect running back for Josh Allen. So I look at them as like they're going to be a tough out for sure.
Absolutely. As we kind of wrap up the show, guys, let us know in the comment section who you guys think is going to be a contender. Obviously, like I said, guys, it is early right now. There's so many teams that are struggling, and there's so many teams that are doing good that are not going to be a team in contention at the end of the year. But as we kind of wrap it up, last question here. What rookie quarterback, as we kind of went over this in the offseason, what rookie quarterback are you surprised by? Or just rookie in general, maybe. Are you surprised by and you're disappointed by?
At this current moment, I would say maybe Jaden Daniels is a better quarterback right now than Caleb Williams because they're both in unideal situations when it comes to O-line. Okay. And Caleb, when he gets attacked, he's going to do his crazy stuff, but he doesn't have the decision making yet. He doesn't have the maturity yet. And so that leads to a lot of bad plays. Jaden Daniels, when he's getting pressured, he's just going to run. And that normally will end up as a positive. And so I believe if they both had good O-lines and good receiving cores, which obviously Chicago does have a good receiving core, but I think Caleb would be better with a complete team around him. But with this lack of O-line that these teams are fielding, Jaden is a better floor raiser because of his rushing ability. And also, he doesn't make as many mistakes. Like he has been very protective of the ball, and his completion percentage is like very high. And so at this point, and then obviously Nick's disappointing. He doesn't have a passing touchdown. Neither do the others, but he's not looking too great.
No, not big on Bo Nix. Luckily, he's in our division.
Yeah. Hey, when they picked him, I was ecstatic.
Yes,
And then when the Raiders picked Bowers, I was sad because I knew he was going to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What is, as last question here as we wrap up? What is your thoughts about the Chargers? Are they a playoff team, or is it they played the like they played a JV team in the Panthers?
Yeah, I don't think they're a playoff team this year. I don't. I think Harbaugh changed their identity, and it makes them they're better than they were last year because they have a hard nose, run the ball, and play good defense identity, which the Chargers could not run the ball or play defense the last 5 years. And so it's completely different. It's no longer the Justin Herbert show. Justin Herbert's kind of playing game manager because he doesn't have the receiving weapons. But they just don't have the talent
Yeah.
to get one of those top 7 spots. I mean, we know we're winning the division.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're fighting with either Miami, Buffalo, or New York for one of them. And then either Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, or Cincinnati.
Yeah. I mean, even Jacksonville's 1-2 right now.
I wouldn't say Jacksonville. They're trash. I'm like, they are the most uninspiring football team I've ever watched in my life. Oh my goodness. I would hate being their fan.
Jags. Who's the 0-2 team that you think right now can turn around? Obviously, there's Cincinnati and there's Baltimore, but maybe someone else who's either 1-1 or 0-2 where you think they can turn around.
Oh, I would say Indianapolis, but their defense is kind of trash. I'm not gonna lie. Their defense had high upside because
you let Malik Willis do what he was doing. If you let Malik Willis do what he was doing.
I know. I would probably, if Atlanta loses tonight, I would say Atlanta.
Yeah.
Because Kirk, obviously, he's only going to get better. And they have more talent than the other teams that are going to be 0-2. The Rams, no chance. They have no players on offense.
There's
and
what did you talk about
the
Cardinals? The Cardinals.
Yeah, they're great. Their offense is great. They're going to be in the highest scoring game of the week, like a lot. Because Kyler Murray's playing great. Harrison broke out yesterday. Well, I'm going to wait to judge Harrison because if you judged him last week, he's terrible. If you judge him this week, he's top 10. Good chance he's like a fringe Pro Bowl guy. Okay, let's not get ahead of ourselves just because he had a great first quarter. Okay, especially against a Rams team that really is void of talent on defense and now void of talent on offense with all the injuries. So, but Kyler's great. Trey McBride's great. And the other receivers, Dortch and Michael Wilson, they're very serviceable and they do what they need to do. So,
yeah, I think I mentioned that before the season. I don't know if they're going to be a playoff team, but I feel like they're going to be that team that upsets a lot of teams. Kind of what they did last year. I think that obviously they won a couple of games, but they upset some teams. The 49ers.
Did they beat the Cowboys?
Yeah, they beat the Cowboys.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
So yeah, they beat some teams, and the Cowboys. We'll have to save that for a midweek show because there's a lot going on there. And that's what we're going to do, guys. We have a new schedule coming out. We're going to go Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, obviously. Midweek show is going to be more talking about what's going on around the league. But as always, guys, we appreciate you guys watching the TPT podcast. Zach, going into week 3, what is your final message about the Kansas City Chiefs going into Atlanta?
Well, I'm about to turn on this Monday night game. With Atlanta playing, I'm going to watch them as close as possible. I want to see how we can take advantage of them because they are not won yet. Okay, so it's good that we got them early because they obviously have playmakers on both sides of the ball. And so I want to watch that. And also we get an extra day's rest, which is always nice. And, just figure out what we're going to do next Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, that'll do it for the TPT podcast. Like I said, we will see you guys on a midweek episode. And obviously, we have the preview for the Atlanta game. Before I head to Atlanta, obviously, I'm going to try to get you guys some content at the game and what's going down and try to heckle some Falcons fans. Well, we will see you guys next time on the TPT podcast.